Met fans, we bought the domain. We are committed. So if you want to check us out, the easiest way now, it's super easy. If you know the name of our podcast, all you got to do is type into your browser, meetthemetsfans.com. It's going to take you directly to where you can stream us, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever it is, or on YouTube. The video is going to be right there. All you have to do is hit play.
That's legit.
Let's go.
That's real.
All right. We're out.
Nice.
Let's go,
I didn't know we did that. I didn't know we did. What the hell? How much did that cost?
Welcome back to Meet the Mets fans. I'm your host, Stefan. I'm here with Justin, back on episode 30 of the podcast. How we doing, Justin? How are you? How's your week been?
Let's go, the big 3-0. That's getting big time now, Stefan. That's legit right there, my friend. Doing well, man. If you're living up here in the Northeast in New York, we just hit about 60 degrees today. Feeling a little bit more like spring is coming around the corner. We got a bunch of spring training games that we want to talk about for today. The Mets have been busy, not only with just spring training, but they've been involved in some WBC games as well. And so our boys are rocking right now. They're rocking for sure.
Yeah, for sure, Justin. Let's dive right into this episode. Let's get things going here. Some news we'll start with, then we'll jump into the games from this week. Highlight for you guys how the pitching's been going, how the hitting's shaping up, and what the bullpen is looking like for guys that are actually probably going to make this major league team. We'll talk about that. We'll recap the WBC before we let you guys go. Let's kick things off with Francisco Lindor. Justin, what do we got?
Yeah, the news has been positive with Lindor, right? Ever since it was announced that he's getting handmade bone surgery, with David Stearns, they talked about how pretty much he thinks he's going to be ready anyway for opening day. It's about a 6-week injury. He had about 6 weeks and 2 days before opening day. And so Lindor the other day stated that, he was asked, do you think he's going to be ready for spring training? He said, 100%. I think I can make it to opening day. We've seen him now starting to take some ground balls. He's just starting to take some light swings. So the injury was on his left hand, so it's a non-throwing hand, so it is a glove side. But Lindor, obviously being a switch hitter, is going to now impact, his ability to swing the bat for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but Team Puerto Rico had a huge walk-off win, and there was a video going viral of Francisco Lindor and his family celebrating Team Puerto Rico. As you all know, Lindor was not able to play for Team Puerto Rico. Insurance issues. So this injury then comes up for him, but he is celebrating pretty significantly there. His hand looks good. He's clapping. It's all good. He's ready to go.
I'm confident, right? And I know we talked about it. It's not a big deal, even if he does miss opening day. He's going to be back within that week, right? This is not a long-term injury. This is not something that we're like, hey, we need to find a replacement for shortstop for this 2026 season. Lindor is going to be playing baseball for the New York Mets in the near future, whether that's opening day, whether that's opening weekend, or it's a second series of the year. And he's needed, right? He is definitely our leadoff hitter. He's our catalyst. He's someone that guys look to in pressure situations, and he usually delivers. And so, Lindor notoriously gets off to slow starts. I don't know if this will be a situation where he's going to use this as an excuse, because he's probably going to get off to another slow start. But just know that at the end of the year, Francisco Lindor is a 30-30 guy, and he is going to be playing solid defense. That's what I can guarantee.
Yeah, he'll be there, Met fans. Don't worry about it. We'll see Francisco Lindor at opening day. Mark my words, he'll be there.
The next big piece of news, Stefan, you want to talk a little about Freddy Peralta, my friend?
Yeah, Josh. So Freddy Peralta, we have been on this podcast saying consistently that we believe an extension is going to happen between Freddy Peralta and the Mets. On last episode, we were here saying he's smiling, he's talking to got a smirk under his face. We went into that whole thing about how it looks like that is going to happen sometime soon. But now Jon Heyman has reported that Freddy Peralta is seeking a 7 to 8 year contract extension. He says he's comfortable here in New York. He wants to get an extension done. He's happy with how things have gone, and he's looking for 7 to 8 years, which, let's be real here, Met fans. It's not going to happen, right? He is not getting a 7-year extension with the New York Mets. I would be shocked to see him get anything more than 5. And, for him to come out and publicly say he's looking for that 7 to 8 year deal, we know that David Stearns doesn't like to deal publicly. He doesn't like how things work out when that typically happens. And so, honestly, I got to be real. I feel like it puts a damper on the extension conversation and probably gets to the point where David Stern says to Freddie, like, hey, all right, man, listen, if that's what you're looking for, let's get through the season. Let's see where things end up when we get there.
Yeah, Freddie's going to his year 30 season, right? So I believe he turns 30 in June of this year. And so if you're looking at a 7 to 8 year contract, you're looking at a 37, 38-year-old pitcher. And David Stern's just not going to do that. And he's probably right, to be honest with you. I think that's a huge damper. I would love to see the Mets and Freddy Peralta get an extension done. I think that they gave up a ton for him, right? Let's be real here. They gave up 2 top 5 prospects in the Mets system, and the Mets had a top 5 system in all of baseball. So you're talking about legitimate top 100 overall prospects. So I think all of us are looking at this and saying, hey, if you gave up that much, an extension just makes a lot of sense. But a 30-year-old pitcher who has had a lot of innings over the last 3 years, right? Like, I'm not trying to sugarcoat that. Like, it's a good thing, right? The guy throws 160 to 180 innings every single year, but that's also wear and tear on this guy's arm. And so if you're now looking at a 7 to 8 year contract, I just don't know if that's a realistic target for the Mets. And I just can't see David Stearns doing something like that at all.
Yeah, I definitely can't see it happening before this season even gets underway, right? And so I can definitely see Freddie Peralta going to the open market, trying to see if he can get that kind of deal, and maybe not being able to get that kind of deal for exactly what you just said, right? I don't know that a lot of teams are out there looking to give a 30-year-old pitcher a 7, 8 year contract.
I
And
mean,
so and that'll be entering age 31 season that'll be happening for. So
yeah, I blame the Blue Jays for this, right? With the Dylan Cease contract. That's pretty much like, I guess, what he's looking for. I think Cease this offseason just signed a 7 year, 210 contract. Dylan Cease is going into his year. I believe he's going into his age 30 season. Very similar to what Peralta is doing. And so when you kind of match up those types of things, and they've had a similar track record in terms of like success. Dylan Cease has been a little bit less consistent than Freddy Peralta, but it's been pretty even between those two guys. And so I'm sure that is what his agent is using as a marker. And I'm sure the Mets are like, hey, we never had any interest in Dylan Cease whatsoever. We were never going to 7 years. So I'm not sure if that's a marriage that's going to happen right there between Stearns and Peralta and
yeah.
his agent. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's still hope they get it done, but just I gotta ask, right? Like, let's say they don't get it done.
Mhm.
What needs to happen for the Mets this season with Freddie Peralta on this team to make that trade worth it? If I'm telling you right now, he will not be a New York Met beyond this season.
Yeah, he's got to throw more than 5 1/3 innings. That means this year, right? And so I think Freddie Peralta now they're going to start using him. I think a little bit less cautious than they would have if they locked him up for a long-term extension. It looked last year when we looked a little bit deeper into Peralta starts. It looked like they capped him right around like 90 to 100 pitches every single time. So on a player level, I need this guy to be going a little bit deeper into games. In terms of like the Mets overall, it obviously starts with playoffs, right? Like I can't even believe that we have to even discuss are the Mets going to make the playoffs here. But the Mets do not make playoffs very often, and so yes, we need to at least make playoffs. Listen, if you make it to the NLCS and you get knocked out by the best team in the world in the Dodgers, right? I'm not gonna kill them for that. But of course, the Mets need to make the playoffs and they can't get knocked out in the wild card round. Like that cannot happen. So if they miss out on the division, they cannot just get knocked out in the wild card round. They've got to advance a little bit. They've got to show that this is a team that can compete in the next couple of years for an actual World Series title here.
Yeah, for me, I think in order to make that Freddie Peralta trade worth it, giving up the 2 top prospects that we did, we got to make it to the World Series. Otherwise, the trade wasn't worth it, right? And like, is that me saying that in order to be happy, I need us to make it to the World Series? No, I've come on this podcast and said I need to enjoy being at baseball games and enjoy watching those games for me to be a happy fan. But for that trade to be worth it, we've got to make it to the World Series. We've got to be looking at a team that has a chance to win a World Series. Otherwise, you've just given up 2 guys that will probably be taking the Brewers really deep into the playoffs for several years to come, right? Like, and that will be a really sad thing to see happen. In order for me to be able to walk away from Freddie Peralta and be good with it, I've got to say the 2026 Mets had an all-time season.
Hey, listen, man, your words to God's ears, right? I'll take it, dude. We deserve it. It's been since 2015 we made it to the World Series, and so it is long overdue. Forget about World Series actual title. We haven't even made it to the World Series now. We're looking at over 11 years, and so, I'm with you. The Mets and have spent a ton of money, right? Like there is no doubt you're signing Bo Bichette to a $42 million contract this year. Okay. It is like top 5 in all of baseball in terms of money spent in terms of contracts. And so, yeah, they're going for it, right? Like, I don't think that anyone can like argue that should the Mets like potentially make it to the World Series, like it is a kind of a disaster if the Mets don't make a deep playoff run. The Mets are putting themselves in a position that they're saying to their fan base that we're trying to win it. Right. We're not trying to just say like, oh, the Dodgers are so good. We have no chance. Forget it. Let's drop our payroll down to 250. They're not doing that. Right. The Mets are spending in the top tier still again this year. And so, yeah, I'm with you, man. It's got to be a deep playoff run. There's no doubt about that. Even with a contract extension. Let's call a spade here. Like, great. Even if you sign to an extension, that still doesn't mean that the Mets still shouldn't be making a deep playoff run.
Yeah. Deep playoff run, I think, is my expectation regardless. So,
yeah, it'd be crazy.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into the next thing. Some pretty sad news here. Robert Stock, who is a guy who probably wasn't making this major league team out of spring training, supposed to be pitching for Team Israel, is a New York Met right now. News just came down. He's going to be having thoracic. How do you say this word? Thoracic outlet syndrome.
Yeah, thoracic.
Like Jurassic.
Dude,
Thoracic
listen,
outlet
I've been
syndrome.
watching the dinosaur Netflix series with my kids, so I like know all about that. Thoracic, all right? I feel like I'm in a time era right now.
Thoracic outlet syndrome, which is something that we're all familiar with as Met fans, having a couple of guys that have gone through this procedure at this point. So Robert Stock going to be out for the entire year, likely. Supposedly he has a chance of coming back in September, but likely going to be out for the entire season, Just.
Yeah, I think it's like a crazy surgery where they like remove a part of your rib cage that's putting pressure on your shoulder. So it's a shoulder injury, but like in order to like relieve some of that pressure, I know with the Matt Harvey case, like I think they removed like a piece of his rib cage or something like that for it. It's a pretty gnarly surgery, one in which, it's not always a case where guys who get this surgery, they don't bounce back. It's not as like successful in terms of bounce back though with this type of surgery. Robert Stock was a guy that increased his like velocity this spring. A lot of times what happens with these guys and their arms is that when there is a huge spike in velocity increasing, there are injuries such as this one is a very common one with guys that have that velo increase. In terms of like his impact, I saw something where this guy like created his own AI generated analytic program for pitching and how he's like, the Mets organization is great. And you go to a staff member and they can answer a question. He's like, but like, I don't need to go to staff members because I made my own program. And I'm like, who is this guy? So I don't know what's going on with this guy. Maybe he's like really smart dude. And so maybe pitching doesn't work out for him. He's going to be creating some AI generated programs for the Mets and their pitching lab. And who knows with that. But yeah, it's sad for this guy because, I'm not saying he was going to be a big impact, but he was someone that like was being talked about how he looked good in spring. Again, with some of his stuff has changed.
Yeah, for sure. The other guy that is publicly very much out there, big news, having this surgery was Zach Wheeler, right? And so also a former Met, current major rival of the New York Mets with the Phillies. So hopefully, the guys are able to bounce back from this. We saw as Met fans that Matt Harvey was not able to recover from the surgery, never was the same.
Yeah. Wait, you got some inside information? I got a fantasy draft coming up. Well, you got a fantasy draft coming up. Like, what's the deal with this guy? He's pitch, select him, don't select him,
Wheeler?
chop him.
I don't know. I mean, he had the surgery already. He's going to come back mid-season. I just don't know if he's going to be the same guy.
Yeah, that's the problem with this. And there's like different types of like what they do. I think it was less invasive, the one that Wheeler got versus the one that Matt Harvey got. And Matt Harvey just never was the same pitcher again after that injury for sure. So, yeah, we'll say.
All right, Just, let's do it. Let's jump into the games. Last week, we had about 5 games that we kind of ran you guys through our analysis of every single game. This week, we're going to do things a little bit differently because it's an entire week's worth of games, and the Mets pretty much play every single day down in spring training. So we're not going to run through every single game. We're going to cover this in 3 major categories. We're going to talk about starting pitching over the course of the last week. We'll talk about the bullpen over the course of the last week, and then we'll talk about offensive standouts over the course of the last week. Justin, you want to start us off with the pitching?
Yeah, no doubt. So, again, this is going back like a week plus almost, right? So we got Tobias Myers, he has been as advertised, right? Like, I feel like no one talked about this guy prior to the trade. Then this trade happens. David Stearns highlights him as this is the guy that if the Brewers didn't add this piece, the Mets were not going to make this trade. And he looks great this spring, right? He's pitching to right now. He's only been 5 innings, but he's pitching to a 1.69 ERA. Just again, more importantly, he's throwing strikes, right? He's a guy that it can come out of the bullpen, as we've seen again last year. He's a guy that also can start. He is someone that is he's just going to have a big impact on the Mets this year. And, barring injuries, this guy will definitely be pitching out of the bullpen, but that is something that the Mets need, right? Like, I know that there's some people that talk about like the tag team, or like specifically Evan Roberts, right? He's all about, oh, the Mets should tag team, tag team, tag team. They have guys that can throw, multiple innings in the bullpen, such as a Tobias Myers. And so I don't think they need a tag team if you have guys in the bullpen like him. And so he looks great. He's throwing strikes again. His last start, 46 pitches, 34 strikes. So he's pumping the zone. And that was what was said of from David Stearns, is that this guy can throw any pitch at any time, and he locates the ball really well.
Yeah, and you guys can expect that Tobias Myers is going to be on the hill pretty soon, because that was our last game before we did our podcast, right? So Tobias Myers probably going to be on the mound tomorrow for the New York Mets, and we're super excited to see what he's going to do for this team this year, whether that be out of the bullpen or in the starting rotation.
Yeah.
The next guy,
Stefan, what do you think about our boy Clay?
Yeah,
our boy
so
Clay. He's
Clay right now pitched for the Mets the day after Tobias Myers did.
Right.
But Clay is also now at the WBC throwing for Team USA, and he looks dominant, right? Like Clay Holmes, and I know we'll talk about the WBC in a little bit, but we'll talk about Clay right now because we're talking about him, right? So for the Mets, last time out, he threw 4 innings, 4 strikeouts, one guy. Then he comes back I believe it was yesterday. He pitched out of the bullpen in the WBC, and again looked dominant. He threw 3 innings, 6 strikeouts, 97 miles an hour on the gun, and I think 4 of those strikeouts were like 4 strikeouts in a row. No, 5 strikeouts in a row for Clay Holmes in his outing for Team USA. So the high pressurized situation of the WBC, and watching Clay Holmes go out and do what he did, it's really exciting. And I know that everybody looks at Clay Holmes as a guy who came into this Met rotation. We're not sure what he was going to be. If he was a mediocre pitcher, we'd all been happy with it. He was pretty mediocre last year, but probably the best pitcher on this staff before Nolan McLean got there. And so Clay Holmes right now is looking dominant in the WBC. He's looking like he's ready to go for the season to start up, and I'm ready for the season to start up. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, I mean, this guy again came into spring training ready to roll, got himself geared up for the regular season faster, or a little bit quicker than a lot of these guys again. And last year he didn't really falter. In game 161, where the Mets had to win against Miami, Clay Holmes came out there and he did his job. And so it wasn't like he tired down the stretch. He came out and he looked as good, if not better, later on in the season. With Clay, what's a little tantalizing is that you saw him in a moment like the WBC, in which he obviously gave a little bit more, because he's not throwing 97 when he's a starting pitcher. But a guy that when he was in the bullpen for the Yankees and he was closing games, that's what he was throwing. He was throwing 97, 98 as a sinker. Obviously as a starting pitcher, he kind of dials it back a little bit. I'm not saying that Clay Holmes, he's not a reliever anymore, right? He is a starting pitcher. I am totally with you on that. But the Mets do have a bunch of starting pitchers, right? I'm not saying they're all amazing, right? But the Mets have a bunch of starting pitchers, right? They have right now currently a 6-man rotation. There's a bunch of guys in the minor leagues that are ready to roll. Clay Holmes is going to be a starting pitcher. I'm just saying it, when I looked at that WBC line and I see this guy throwing 97, I'm like, man, this guy, if he was in the bullpen, right, would he be dominant again? But,
I mean, he threw 97 consistently across 3 innings, right?
Yeah.
If he can go out and throw 95, 96 over 5-6 innings and give that to you every 5 days, that is a legitimate pitcher in your rotation. That's in the middle of our rotation for the New York Mets.
No doubt. I just saw last year he was at more 93, 94, right? When he was a starting pitcher. And again, he was still good, right? It's a 93, 94. It's not a 4-seam fastball you're talking about. You're talking about a sinker ball, right? That has movement on it. And so I really like Clay Holmes. I know people crushed the Mets last year and David Stearns for signing him, but he really has been a good signing. One in which, he's gotten opt out, I think, after this year. I'm sure if he does what he did last year, he's going to definitely opt out of that contract for sure.
Yeah. There's no way Clay Holmes is going to be a New York Met next year unless he's signing an extension, right? He's going to opt out if he pitches the way he pitched last year which was, like I said, mediocre last year. If he pitches that way again, he's going to opt out, because he's proven that he is a legitimate starting pitcher in this league. And that was one of the things he talked about after his last start for the Mets, was needing to prove to himself that he could get through a full season being a starting pitcher. So I do think he's going to be able to dial it up a little bit more this year. So exciting for Clay Holmes. We'll talk about Jonah Tong next, Justin.
Yeah.
What do you got on him?
So Joe Tong, he pitched against Nicaragua, in the World Baseball Classic, just again like a
Exhibition game.
exhibition game that they had going on there. He didn't look great. It was wet conditions out there through 2 2/3. He did strike out three though, but he let up 5 hits. One of them being Mark Vientos, who that dude's batting like .077 right now. He's definitely struggling. We'll get to him when we talk about the WBC. But again, what's the issue here? Jonah Tong not throwing many strikes, right? 54 pitches, only 34 strikes out of there. So that's definitely like a little bit of a concern. In his most recent start, I know that Jonah Tong, his cutter looked a little bit better, right? According to Mendoza, I think after the first inning, he wound up going back to the cutter in that second inning, and Mendoza highlighted that and said that looked a little bit sharper. Jonah Tong is going to start in AAA, right? Like that, there is no doubt about it. This is not like is he competing for a rotation spot? He's not. I'm going to be honest with you. Even if there is an injury to a starting pitcher, I think Tobias Myers is going to be the guy that's going to put himself into that position over Jonah Tong. Jonah Tong is 22 years old. He's going to start his year in AAA. The Mets proved last year that that's what they like to do with Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat. Get those guys experience in AAA, prove resiliency, bounce back after bad starts, show that you can like sustain success in a upper level such as AAA. And I think that's where he's going to end up at the beginning of the season for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, Justin. He's 100%. It's going to take multiple injuries to get Jonah Tong to the major leagues this year. I have no doubt that he'll probably be here at some point, but he's showing right now in spring training that the best place for him to be is down at AAA, developing the command of his pitches. So don't worry, Met fans. Jonah Tong is going to have an impact on this team, but it's just not going to come right away. He needs to be developed a little bit more.
Yeah, and listen, sorry about that. I was going to say, if we trust our leadership, right, and we trust the front office, okay, Jonah Tong was pretty much untouchable this offseason, right? Like he was a guy that teams definitely called about, where those big names, they started with Jonah Tong, and the Mets essentially hung up the phone with that, right? It was more essentially a Carson Benz, Jonah Tong. Those are two of the guys that I really don't want to touch. He's still young. He's still a kid. Let's give this guy a moment, right? I'm not freaking out about that whatsoever. I'm confident that he is going to still be a productive major league player, and he's going to have an impact on the 2026 season, no doubt.
Yep. Next guy up, just David Peterson, who is going to be essential to this New York Mets team to be really good. We're going to need David Peterson to be the guy he was for 85% of the season last year. And I have no doubt that he's going to be. He came out, looked really sharp in his last start. 3 innings. He let up 1 hit, struck out 4 guys. And that's what we want to see from David Peterson. This is a walk year for him as well. So this is another guy we're talking about. This is the third starting pitcher that we've listed out. Freddy Peralta, David Peterson, Clay Holmes. 3 essential pieces of this starting rotation that are all in their walk years, essentially. David Peterson is going to need, we're going to need a big year from him, and I fully expect that we're going to have it.
Yeah, I heard someone arguing with David Peterson, like, that should trade David Peterson, right? They're like, oh, he's in a contract year. There's no way that they're going to re-sign him. They should just try to get whatever they can right now for him. I thought that take was ridiculous, right? David Peterson is not going anywhere. Someone was like, well, maybe at the trade deadline, the Mets starting pitching is doing really well. Maybe he's a guy that can be moved. I don't see that, right? Like, I don't see why you would give up on this guy. I'm not saying that the Mets going to sign him to a long-term extension, but he's a guy that is a productive pitcher. Last year, if we go back and think about like the New York Mets season in 2025, for 2/3 of that season, David Peterson was our best starting pitcher. He's a guy that consistently went in and like in times in which the Mets bullpen was so taxed, the Mets had to get length out of their starting pitcher, and David Peterson stepped up and did that for them. And so, I know he tired down the stretch, but he is still someone that I'm not high on, but he's still a guy I trust him, right? Like he's a guy that I think is going to have another big impact on the Mets in 2026.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a middle of the rotation starter for us. And last year he was our ace. This guy was the guy that we needed to rely on every single 5th day, 6th day, whatever it was. And David Peterson, it was more than 2/3 of the season, Just. It was really just September. He had one bad start at the end of August and then a terrible, terrible September that just ballooned his ERA. But prior to that, David Peterson was the anchor of this New York Mets team. If he can return to any semblance of that, we're in a really good spot.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think it was like 2 starts in August that were bad, and that was it. Next guy up, Christian Scott. I got to say, Christian Scott looked good, right? Mendoza highlighted him, talked about him. That's what was up to 96 with command. He threw 2 2/3, allowing 2 hits. He struck out 5, but he looked dominant, man. He looked really good, and I'm sure he was all jacked up for that start. It wasn't like 96 point like something on his fastball, right? On the average, it was definitely someone that like coming back from Tommy John surgery is someone that is geared up and ready to go. He did not come back too fast. Christian Scott's another guy who's going to have another impact on this season's. If you ask me like right now, like would Jonah Tong or Christian Scott, like who's going to be the first guy that might get called up for the Mets in 2026? I'm going to be honest with you. I think it might be Christian Scott over Jonah Tong right now if the Mets do need a starting pitcher. And so, and that's good. Like Christian Scott was a top prospect in the Mets system for years. He obviously had the Tommy John, and then people kind of forget about those types of guys. So Christian Scott is definitely someone that we should be excited for.
Yeah, I mean, he made his major league debut before Jonah Tong for a reason, right? Like this guy was ready, and he when he pitched in 2024 for the New York Mets, he pitched well. We were all really excited to see what Christian Scott was going to become. It was really sad to see him miss the 2025 season, and this Mets team probably really missed him, to be honest. So we'll see. He'll definitely get his chance. Christian Scott talked about, for him coming out of spring, obviously health is the most important thing, but building up his innings is going to be really important to him as well after not having pitched for an entire year. So
no doubt,
another guy to be excited about, Met fans.
Yeah. All right. How about our boy Sean? Talk to us.
So Sean Manaea, we finally get to see it on the bump for the New York Mets this week. Sean came out, he threw 3 innings. He let up a run. He struck out 1 guy. His velocity, that's the problem, right? So the results were fine. The results for Manaea in his first spring start were good. They were okay. It's not about results in spring training. We all know that. Spring training is whatever, right? It's more about what you're seeing and how a guy looks while he's out there. And Sean Manaea is averaging 89 miles an hour on the radar gun. And that is really problematic. Sean has never been a guy that's a 97, 98 mile an hour pitcher, but he was a mid-90s pitcher, 94, 95 regularly on the gun when he's at full health. And that 89 miles an hour is really concerning. And if he's not ready, if he's not able to go out there and be the guy the Mets expect him to be, they need to start him on the IL this year. Get him to where he needs to be, because the 3 innings right now I know Mendoza came out and said, like, don't worry, he's going to get like 3 more starts before we get to opening day. He's just kind of building up. You'll see that the velocity is there. Right now, I'm not seeing it. And Sean Manaea, I'm really worried when I'm looking at what he's doing.
Yeah, he might be the most expensive bullpen piece on all of baseball, and that includes Edwin Diaz with that $25 million a year contract. Listen, it's spring training. I'm not trying to freak out a little bit over that, but Sean Manaea's his velo was down last year, right, when he came back. And if we remember, like, one of the things, it wasn't just that the oblique injury. They also talked about how he's got some loose bodies in his elbow that he didn't do anything for in the offseason. He kind of like just let that go. And he said he's feeling a little bit better, right, in the offseason, but still, are those loose bodies impacting his ability to get that up to 93, 94, which he was doing in the 2024 season when we saw him being one of the best pitchers that the Mets had? Let's pump the brakes. Let's see how he looks, right? Coming down. I'm with you. Health is the most important thing, but health matters. Results matter more, right? So like, cool, you're healthy. And if you're not performing up to at like standard, I don't care about your health. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, right? Like if you're not performing the way that we need you to perform, you could be as healthy as you like claim you are. There's something going on there. So we'll see with that.
Yeah, Sean Manaea is a high 80s fastball pitcher. He's a bullpen pitcher, a guy that the Mets can rely on to be maybe a tag team type of guy, right? Like a guy like that you could pair with Tobias Myers or something like that to give you length out of the bullpen. Sean Manaea needs to get that velocity up. And if not, he's not healthy. There's something wrong.
Yeah, he's got loose bodies. Got some loose, whatever that means. We got loose bodies. What the hell does that mean? Loose bodies. What are you freaking talking about over here? Go get it cleaned up. Loose bodies.
Can't miss more time.
Guess.
All right, how about Kodai Senga? Get it fixed. Right. Get it fixed before you throw that guy out there.
Here's another guy. Let's talk about another injury-prone dude, all right? Kodai Senga. What's different about Kodai Senga than Sean Manaea is Sean Manaea is attempting to get his velo back up. Kodai Senga comes into spring training throwing the hardest he's ever thrown in his career in the major league level. Mendoza alluded to this early in the season. He's like, yo, I've never seen Kodai Senga hit 97 in spring. And he had his first start. His fastball was up to 99. Kodai Senga, 99? Dude's like, yo, F it. I'm just going for it right now. And he looked good. He did give up 2 solo home runs in the spring. But again, if his stuff is there, Kodai Senga has really dominant stuff, right? Like that splitter that he has, that ghost fork, is nasty. And so if he's able to get his fastball up to 97 to 99 with that ghost fork, he's going to have a good season, right? I can guarantee you that. Health is the most important thing for Senga. He came out of that start. I haven't heard anything now. It's been a few days. I haven't heard any injuries. Let's hope he makes his next spring start. That would mean that he's all good. That's going to be 6 days from now, right? It's a 6-man, it's got
Well, I
And
don't know
he's
about
like,
that. I heard literally yesterday, Mendoza said that him and Kodai Senga have talked about the 5-man
okay,
rotation, and Kodai Senga says he's ready to do it. He's good to go.
really?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I don't know because what I heard from Mendoza was that he's like, we got 6 starting pitchers, right? Like that's what he alluded to in the with that interview in the Post of him saying that we have 6 starting pitchers, and so but I guess I'm not. I know I just kind of like poked Kodai Sanger a little bit about that 6-man rotation. 6-man rotation is not a bad thing. The problem with the 6-man rotation is that it puts so much pressure on your bullpen, which is why guys like Tobias Myers matter so much for them. Is a guy that can give them length and give them a couple of innings out of the bullpen. A guy like Brazaban also can give you a couple of innings. That's what you need in a bullpen if you're going to go to a 6-man rotation because you now lost another reliever for that spot. And so I think it benefits starting pitchers to have an extra day rest. And like if you look at a lot of the stats for the Mets pitchers this year, they do benefit from having 1 day extra rest. And so I'm not completely against the 6-man rotation, but again, it does put a lot of pressure on that bullpen, one in which is already a little sketchy with what's going on over there.
The Mets have multiple guys like that in the bullpen that can do it. Obviously, Tobias Myers can be a starter, right? And you mentioned Brazaban, who's done it in the past, but Luke Weaver's
Yeah.
another guy
Yeah.
who we'll
He
talk
was a
about in
former
a little
starter.
bit, who can go multiple innings, right? Former starters. If the 6-man rotation thing works out, it means everybody's healthy, and that's a good thing. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with you on that. All right, how about our boy Jack Weniger? This guy, I feel like he's thrown like 4 times in the last like 5 days or something like that.
Yeah, so Weniger's an interesting case, right? This is one of the Mets' biggest prospects that's out there. It's like Jonah Tong, and then he's right under him, pretty much at this point. And that's I'm obviously taking Nolan McLean out of the equation here.
Yeah, I think he's our number 7 overall prospect
Okay.
for the Mets system. Yeah, he's big time for sure.
Yeah, and so the Mets are taking a really, really good look at Jack Weniger. He's going out there pretty consistently, whether that be starting or throwing out of the bullpen, but he's being stretched out, obviously, as a starter. He's going to be in AAA as a starter. And so Weniger threw 3 innings out of the bullpen earlier in the week last week, looked really dominant, struck out 5. He then came back a couple of days later on March 1st in the game against Houston. He threw an inning in the third. He got into trouble. So he threw a dominant first inning, got into trouble in the second inning, only was able to get 1 out. The Mets needed to have somebody come in and bail him out. They brought in some guy named Conley,
Yeah, I
Bryce
think
Conley.
he had 4 walks in that inning, right?
Yes. He let up
Yeah.
4 walks in the inning. Bryce Conley comes in, picks up the pieces for him, gets 2 outs. I think it gave up a run, which got charged to Weniger. And then the next inning, the Mets did this funky spring training rule, which is what we used to do when we coached high school baseball, Justin,
That's
where you
right,
could
baby.
reinsert a guy. So the
I
Mets then
love that.
reinsert Weniger, give him another fresh opportunity to start. Weniger goes back out there, throws another couple of outs, gets in trouble again, and then Bryce Conley again, he gets reinserted, comes in and cleans up Weniger's inning again. Didn't look great in that last outing. But then get this is the guy we're going to talk about the most. He's the guy that's pitched the most. Weniger pitched out of the bullpen again yesterday for the New York
Crazy.
Mets, right?
That's what I mean. That's what I say. This guy's thrown like 3 times in like the last 4 days. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
it's
He's
3
throwing
times in 7 days for sure.
which is a
So
lot
Weniger comes
for
out,
like
but looks dominant. 3 innings yesterday, strikes out 5.
crazy.
This is a guy that the Mets are, like we said, taking a long look at. He's not going to make this major league team, but don't be surprised to see if injuries come down, Jack Weniger having an impact on this New York Mets team in 2026.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, let's move into Freddy. So we got Freddy Peralta. He actually threw today. We're recording at night. This is a Sunday night recording. Freddy Peralta threw today against the Yankees. Against the Yankees, like there is no Aaron Judge against the Yankees in this scenario. He looked all right. He gave up 2 runs in the first inning. He then settled down, looking a little bit more like himself. He struck out 4 batters overall in those 3 innings. He's up to 45 pitches in the game. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't care about Freddy Peralta's stat lines, right? The only thing I care about is that Freddy Peralta is up to 45 pitches in the game. His next start, he's going to bump up to 60 to 65. His following start, he'll be in that 70 to 80 mark. That's the only thing I care about with Freddy Peralta, right? Is that he's going to take the ball every 5-6 days and he stays healthy for this season. Freddy Peralta is dominant. He's got great stuff. He strikes out a ton of guys. That's the only thing that matters for him.
Yeah, for sure. I would have liked to see Freddie have another up in this game, come up for a 4th time. His first start of the spring, he threw 3 innings as well. He did that in a lot less pitches. So I think the Mets kind of said, like, at 45 pitches, we're not going to have him go 55, 60 pitches in his second spring start. So they definitely made the right decision. It would have just been nice to see him make that because I think the ups and downs or have become the thing now that you're measuring starters in spring training. How many times these guys are prepared to go sit down, cool down, and then warm themselves back up to pitch again in another inning. So we'll hopefully be able to see Freddie go out there and do at least 4 ups and probably 55 to 65, 60 pitches in his next start.
No doubt.
All right, let's
All right,
jump to the
let's jump
bullpen.
in. Bullpen, my friend. Yeah.
Bullpen.
So this is where, again, like it's nice talking about starting pitching and we care about that, right? But we more care about like the health of them. The bullpen is a legitimate competition that's going on here, right? There are a few guys that have spots locked up, whether that's Devin Williams, Luke Weaver. I'm sorry, Stefan. Luis Garcia, Brooks Raley, right? Those are guys that's guaranteed that are going to have a roster spot, right? That's for sure. But then that means that you also have 3 spots for the Mets that are not taken up. And so there is a competition that's going on here. And so, it's definitely something to take a look at. And one of the guys right now that has been, why? Because like he's someone that has been one of the best like relievers in all of baseball years ago, but still was, in Craig Kimbrell, right? What do you got, Stefan?
So yeah, Craig Kimbrell has had multiple outings for the Mets in the last 7 days since our
Yep.
last recording. He threw on the 28th against Washington.
Yeah, he's got 3 of them.
Yeah, he threw on March 3rd against Team Nicaragua. He threw on March 6th against Miami. And Craig Kimbrell is a guy that, like Justin just said, is going to get an opportunity to make this team over some of the younger guys. And honestly, he's pitching well enough to be able to do that. I think let's take a look. So that first game, the 28th, he comes out. That was his spring debut. Threw an inning. He didn't look that great. Fastball sitting at around 93 miles an hour.
Yeah, which was up. Apparently, at the beginning of spring, he was sitting more of like 89. And then, then he gets into game action, and now his fastball's up to 93.
Yeah, he let up a run in that game, Justin?
Yeah, he gave up. He gave up like a sac fly or something like that in that game.
Something like that, yeah. So then March, actually, I think that was the March 3rd game. On the March 3rd game, Team Nicaragua, he comes out, throws again, looked decent, gave up a run. Again, these are not guys that we're looking at the final stat lines for. We're looking at how they looked in the game. March 6th, Craig Kimbrell gets back on the mound, throws a scoreless inning, striking out 2. Right? So he's definitely a guy that's out there right now, going to get an opportunity to earn a spot on this team. What did Mendoza have to say about it, Justin?
Yeah. So Mendoza met with the Post yesterday, or spoke with the Post yesterday, and talked about how his fastball is looking better. It's got some life on it, right? I think there was some concern when he first started throwing in the Mets camp of how his fastball didn't pop as the way that they kind of expected it to. Craig Kimbrell's not going to be a guy that's going to throw 97, 98 anymore, right? Met fans, get that out of your head. But they did talk about his fastball looks a little bit better, and he's also throwing his breaking ball for strikes. Mendoza talked about how his mechanics are in a good place. He's consistent right now, and he's got it. I think the Mets want him to make this roster, right? I feel like and Mendoza and the Mets are willing this guy into a roster spot. Clearly, he's thrown 3 times in the last week or so. They need to make sure and want to see what this guy can do and whether or not he can pitch on not back-to-back days, but if he can pitch, once every 2 days or once every 3 days. Because again, we just talked about the need for guys to be able to throw multiple innings coming out of that bullpen. So you can't have a guy that can't throw these back-to-back days in a Craig Kimbrell if he's going to make this team.
Yeah, and the next guy up that we'll talk about, Justin, is Adbert Alzolay. Alzolay is also another guy who's getting a long look here. I think, unfortunately for Alzolay, he's probably a little bit lower on the totem pole than Craig Kimbrell, but he's another guy who's got major league pedigree as a closer. I'd like to see him get a shot to try to make this team. But Alzolay had his second appearance of the spring that same day as Kimbrell, February 20. He then threw on March 4th against Team Israel.
Yeah. He's let up. Yeah, he's let up a couple of runs. Again, he's striking guys out. David Stearns alluded to this guy, how he's pretty much going to start in the minor leagues. They need to get some innings in him. He's missed the last 2 years, essentially, Alzolay, with injury. And so he's definitely going to be a guy that, I hear you, want to see him, potentially, compete for a roster spot. He's a guy, again, another former closer in Alzolay for the Cubs. But I don't see it happening. I think he's going to start in the minor leagues and making sure that, again, he gets a couple of innings under his belt before he, comes to the major league team.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think he's in a spot where he's going to accept that. He's going to accept the assignment to AAA. And if he wasn't going to, when David Stearns came out and said that, he would have opted out and just figured out another team that's willing to give him a shot. So I think you can very much expect that Alzolay will start in AAA, build up his and be willing to take that assignment and not opt for free agency instead.
Yeah, no doubt. How about our boy Devin Williams, right? So Devin Williams, I know that his first start, he lets up I think it was the first pitch, right? He threw a cutter. Yeah, first pitch to JJ Weatherholt. a cutter to him. Guy takes him deep. Every Met fan, Yankee fans are texting us, right? Like, ha, 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 ha. My dude, it's spring training. Like, get out of my face. But again, Devin Williams is going to be fine. Last 2 outings, 2 scoreless innings. In one of those outings, he struck out the side. He threw against Team Nicaragua. Then he threw in a spring game. Devin Williams is our closer, right? Like, there's a few teams that have designated closers, and the Mets are one of those teams that have a designated closer. Fans, please remember, in 2024, Devin Williams was one of the best closers in all of baseball. Going into the 2025 season, Yankee fans said that they just traded for one of the best closers in all of baseball. I know he had a couple of bad months with the Yankees. He is going to be totally fine. Even if he gets off to a rocky start, he's a guy that the Mets need to lean on, because if Devin Williams is not successful, I don't believe that the New York Mets are going to have a successful year. The bullpen matters. A closer matters. They need to have this guy locked in, and I think he's in a good place. I really do. I'm excited for Devin Williams this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the entrance music is going to look like. Like, we've got to replace Edwin Diaz's vibe with something. So I hope that Devin Williams is spending some time thinking about that.
Who was doing that? Oh, Phillies last year, right? With Johan Duran. They were totally swagger jacking us, right? On a huge entrance. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Devin Williams, I don't know if he's that type of guy, right? I know he's a very soft spoken, but I guess Diaz is also, I don't know. But
if you're gonna go out there and call yourself the airbender, you've got to have some serious swagger as you come out there to some type of crazy song that are gonna get fans hyped up for you. Before he does any of that, he's probably got to have a couple of innings under his belt where Met fans can be like, all right, sigh of relief here.
All right, let's talk about another former Yankee here in Luke Weaver.
So Luke Weaver, we got to see him on the mound for the first time this week. Luke Weaver is one of those guys we talked about a little bit earlier in the pod, a guy that can go multiple innings, former closer pedigree, obviously with the Yankees. And we're going to take the positives with Luke Weaver here, because what choice do we have, right? Luke Weaver looks really good in spring right now. First outing going out there and throwing a scoreless inning. And so,
did you see this? You see that dude diving to first base on a play to first base?
You texted me about it, and I know that you were pretty upset about it. So why don't you jump into it, Justin?
Dude, what are you doing, right? I see this guy legit, full extension, diving for the bag to try to get an out. I'm like, are we kidding me right now? Chris Sale last year broke his ribs by doing a similar play like that, lunging out, diving, making a ridiculous catch against the Mets. Luke Weaver, dude, relax, man. It is spring training. I know you want to I know it's baseball and I know you adrenaline pumping, but yo, you don't need to be diving to first base to try to grab an out. Come on.
Yeah, we had a similar discussion like this about Bo Bichette, and I completely disagreed with you there. I'm not going to disagree with you this time.
Yeah,
it's spring training, Luke.
Come on,
you are a pitcher. It's very different, right? You have a choice. You're running, you're thinking. There's no reason for you to do that. It's okay. Don't make the out.
That's crazy, right? What are we doing here? But yeah, listen, Luke Weaver, again, I don't want to say I'm confident, right? But I like the signing. I thought it was a good signing with Luke Weaver. I think that's someone that, again, has New York pedigree. That matters. Has closing experience. That matters. Has multiple innings can throw multiple innings. That matters, right? All of those things were factors for this signing, and I think it made a lot of sense. All right, how about our guy Ryan Lambert? This guy's a beast, right? Guys, what do you guys think?
He's one of the guys that I think is an exciting story to talk about. Met fans are listening to talk radio and they're watching this guy go out there and throw gas, and you want him to make this major league team. He probably is not going to make this major league team because of a guy like Craig Kimbrell who might get the spot. And that's a little bit unfortunate, but he's a guy that has been talked about as a potential future closer because of the type of gas that he's throwing. Again, he goes out there multiple times this week throwing scoreless innings, striking out multiple guys. He's really fun and exciting to watch.
Yeah.
So Ryan Lambert, don't worry, Met fans. If he doesn't make this major league team, which I don't think he is going to make this team out of spring, he's a guy that's going to contribute to this major league team in 2026 for sure.
Yeah, dude, he's cracking eggs out there, bro. He's chugging 1,000 eggs before every pitch. So I'm with you on Ryan Lambert, guy. Another guy we got to get to is Brooks Raley. He's actually thrown now twice, Brooks Raley, in spring. His first outing, I believe he gave up a run. Then he came out, he threw an inning without giving up a run. The only thing we can say about Brooks Raley is that he was our best reliever last year, besides from Edwin Diaz, right? And so, again, I'm not saying he's good, we don't have to worry about him, but he is someone that hey, let's get out of spring healthy. He's someone that's been really good for the Mets, right, for the last couple of years. I know he was injured to start the year last year, but Brooks Raley is someone that needs to be solid, especially with AJ Minter starting the year on the IL, he is potentially our only lefty in the bullpen. And Mendoza alluded to that. So someone asked him like, "Hey, with AJ Minter not starting this year, starting off the year healthy, does that mean you need to carry another lefty?" And from Mendoza's perspective, he said no. He's like, I got guys that have good splits, right? Like that can get lefties out that are right-handed pitchers, and vice versa with Brooks Raley, a guy that's a lefty that can also get right-handed batters out. And so, I'm excited obviously for Brooks Raley. He's someone that is a stopgap, right? For hopefully for Devin Williams, he'll be definitely be throwing in the later innings in that bullpen.
Yeah, the last bullpen guy that we'll talk about, and I'll talk about it, is Luis Garcia, who I come out here and said is not, I don't have confidence in him. I don't think he's going to be a guy that ends up making this team. I'm going to eat my words hardcore here. This guy has looked really, really good for the Mets in the spring.
Pretty good.
He's come out there pretty much every single time and thrown up zeros, which is what the Mets brought him in here to come out and do. And he's done it every single time. Everybody, he's got a major league contract. I'm wrong. Barring any kind of injury, Luis Garcia is going to make this major league team.
No one wants to say a 37, 38-year-old is like the dude, but like, yeah, he's solid still, man. He still throws hard. He still is a solid reliever. He's going to give you a 3.5 ERA. He's not a Ryan Stanek, all right? Like, I can tell you that. I know, like, when I say those words, like, he's a guy that throws really hard. He's not a Ryan Stanek. He's not a complete head case. So I think Luis Garcia is a solid major league pitcher. And I think I believe he's going to make this roster. So, mark him in one of our top 4 that we have right now. All right. How about offensively, Stefan? So we're getting to it, right? We're not going to go through every single offensive player here, but I think we're going to highlight some of the guys that have been standing out for us, right, so far in the spring. I don't think we need to highlight Juan Soto, right? Juan Soto's really good. Okay, we don't need to highlight what he's doing. We'll talk a little bit about WBC because he's been sick there. But we don't need to highlight those types of guys. But there is competitions happening, right, for the on the offensive side as well. And so I think let's kind of discuss some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, the most exciting competition that's happening is the right field competition, and I don't know that it's much of a competition anymore. Carson Bench is going to be the right fielder for this New York Mets team, and again, we say everything here barring injury, right? But Carson has come out and he looks the part. He looks like a major leaguer. He's hitting in spring. The results are there, and it's not just about the results. It's the whole package that the Mets are seeing out on the field, and the talk all over the New York Mets is that Carson Bench is going to be the starting right fielder for this team.
He went Apo Taco the other day. Dude, that's what you like to see, man. He's keeping his hands behind the ball, letting the ball travel deep in him, right? He's not too nervous, right? He's not trying to get ahead of it. He's not lunging at the ball. Those are really good signs for a major league hitter, especially a guy that's trying to make the team, because that is an easy thing to be doing, is right, trying to press, trying to get ahead of the ball, right? Making sure that you're making contact. And Carson Bench is a guy that, he's batting right around 300, which again, the stats don't matter. It's like what he looks like. I know Carson Bench had a couple of hits today against the Yankees as well. Yeah, I'm with you. But with that being said, Carson Bench looks good, but there's also guys that are playing really well right now for the Mets that are like additional outfield depth pieces, like Mike Tauchman, right? Mike Tauchman has done everything that the Mets probably could ever ask for in spring training. And so if the fact that he doesn't make this club, I would be completely floored and completely shocked. The Mets have so much flexibility with the infield, right? With guys like Polanco, Beatty, Vientos, Bo, Simeon, that right now, like the bench spots are pretty much going to be like lined up with outfield depth. And so a guy like Mike Tauchman, I think is like, I don't want to say pencil him in. He's definitely going to make it, but let's pencil him in, because I think that he's someone that is definitely has a real shot of making this team. And he looks great. He's a major league baseball player. Let's put it there.
Yeah, through his first 6 games, he's had 11 at bats. He's hit 4 home runs and he's batting .364. And those stats might be, that's just their first 11 games. There might be 11 at bats. There might be another game or so that, like my stats here on ESPN's website that I'm looking at, don't have added in there for Topman, but he's hitting the crap out of the ball. And he's playing defensively the way that the Mets knew he could. He can play all 3 defensive positions. So if he's the additional outfielder, the 4th or 5th outfielder on this team, you got to be really excited about Mike Topman. The problem that I have with Mike Topman is MJ Melendez. Yeah. MJ Melendez is also hitting really, really well. And I just think that he has more upside overall as a player. I think he has more versatility as a player. Melendez can play first base. He can play a little bit of third base. And I know for sure that he could play catcher because when he came up as a prospect, he was
You
a
do.
catcher, which
Yeah,
really
yeah.
excites me to get Francisco Alvarez off days from catching, but still in the lineup. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a tough call. I think Mike Topman will probably get the edge because Melendez has options and
Mhm.
Topman doesn't. And I think that that's what's going to determine who's getting the spot here. But Melendez also, through his first 11 at bats, has
He's
actually,
got 2 home runs.
I read that wrong. Topman had the 1 home run.
Yeah, he's got 4 RBIs.
It's 4 RBIs. So I read that wrong. That's my bad. 1 home run, 4 RBIs for Topman. Melendez is 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. And so also batting
Listen,
three.
if anyone's
364.
listening to this podcast 53 minutes in and you want to call us out on that type of stuff, go ahead, right? Put it in there, okay?
Yeah. Write it in the chat. You're
We're
wrong.
willing to eat it. Yeah, I looked at that. I go, 4 home runs. You sure about that? Whatever. That's good enough. Jay Melendez, I'm with you on that. Like he really does look solid. What about a guy like AJ Ewing, another young guy that's like hitting the ball really well, looks like another polished like minor leaguer. The Mets are littered with talent, and I know it's spring training, we're all getting jacked up, and because you have to, right? Like if you're not excited for these guys, right? Like then you shouldn't be listening to his podcast 54 minutes into it right now. But another guy, AJ Ewing, that looks really good. That is another outfielder that maybe has an impact on the major league club. One thing I want to allude to with Mike Tauchman is before he signed, essentially he met with the Mets and he was asked like, why did you essentially sign with the Mets? And they talked about how he's got a real opportunity with them. And so I don't want to say that Mike Tauchman's definitely going to make this club, but like I don't think David Stearns and Mendoza were like bullcrapping with this guy. Like I don't think they were like just stringing this guy along. Like yeah, you'll make the club, ha ha ha. Right? Like I think it was a situation where they were like, yo, listen, we need if Carson Bench does stumble a little bit, we need a guy that is a major league player, and that's what Mike Tauchman is. So I think that he definitely is going to make this club, barring injury. Right? I think he's going to be penciled in because of those like types of things that were said early on in spring, and he's producing. Right? Like he looks good.
Yeah. You mentioned AJ Ewing, Justin, and Andrew is his name, by the way. Andrew Ewing. AJ Ewing is hitting the ball. He looks really good defensively. Sid has talked on the podcast about this guy being the future center fielder for the New York Mets. We haven't seen Luis Robert play any games yet. And obviously, I know that he's playing on the backfield. Mendoza said he's going to keep doing that through this week. Hopefully, in the upcoming week, we will see Robert get into a major league spring training game. If he doesn't end up being the guy that we all hope he becomes, AJ Ewing is knocking on the door, and he's showing it right now in spring. The Mets don't have to bring Roberts back for the 2027 season. So if he doesn't have a great season, I think they feel pretty confident that they're not going to overpay him. They're not going to overextend. They're not going to give him $20 million that they don't have to give him when they've got a guy like AJ Ewing who's producing the way he's producing in spring, playing the way that he's playing, and has the pedigree that he does.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Listen, hitting is different than pitching, right? Like the hitters do not need as much ramp up as the pitchers do, right? Spring training is meant for the starting pitchers and the relievers to get on track. The hitters need about 2 weeks for them to, essentially they talked about like you want to get about 50 at bats before the major league season for these hitters. And so those 2 weeks, you're going to be able to get enough swings, whether it's like actually in a game or it's, in a sim game that they've created. So the hitters have a little bit less pressure to start like in the spring training. So I'm not freaking out about Luis Robert. The Mets are going to put him in a spot, hopefully that makes him successful. Did I say Robert?
You did it. You said
that.
Robert.
I hate myself for that. Luis Robert. What am I? I'm not Robert. I'm a Luis Robert guy. I hate that I just did this. Oh my God. I got to end this podcast. I got to regroup. All right. Let's talk about 2 more guys here. To me, like some of the standouts, and it's really exciting to see these guys, right? Because these are guys that we were relying on last year that had some ups and downs, but have started off with spring training, have looked great. And that is Francisco Alvarez and Brett Beatty, right? I'll jump into Alvarez. Alvarez, since coming back, right, from that AAA stint, was a different player. He was the guy that I think a lot of Met fans like expected. I think he had 4 home runs in September. He had over a 900 OPS, over a 300 batting average last year, like in the major leagues. And then he comes into spring training. He's batting 400 right now. He looks comfortable again. He looks healthy. That's the most important thing. Francisco Alvarez, I don't know if this guy is like destined to be an everyday DH, but Francisco Alvarez, like one of the big issues that we had is this guy staying healthy. And he's, as a catcher, it's one of the like hardest things to do is to stay healthy as the catcher. And so he might in the future be someone that like might just become a DH versus him behind the plate. And I'm not saying he's bad defensively. Like that's not the rationale I'm bringing up right now. The rationale I'm bringing up right now is that when this guy is healthy, he can have a huge impact on the offensive side. And so if the case is like, hey, the catcher position is so demanding and it's creating injuries for this guy, let's just stick him in a DH spot because right now the Mets really don't have a true DH. That's not something that I'd be totally against. To be honest with you.
Yeah, he had a great game against the Yankees today. Went 2 for
Yeah,
3.
yeah.
Alvy's looking real good, Met fans,
Well,
and
shit.
and and I hate to go back to MJ Melendez real quick. It's what excites me about MJ Melendez. It allows Alvy to stay in the lineup, and I think Alvy's going to have a big year. But yeah, we'll keep going here. We'll talk about Brett Beatty next. Brett is having the spring training of his life right now, and I'm talking about defensively. This dude is loving the opportunity that the Mets are giving him to play all of these different positions. So we've seen Brett now in the last week play first base multiple times, which is probably where he's going to get most of his starts, is over at first base. But we also got to see him play right field and talked about how excited he is to be out there. Brett Beatty, obviously, we know he can play third base. Obviously, we know he can play second base, but he's enjoying having multiple chances to play in all of these different positions. Today, he DH'd against the Yankees. He went out there, went 1 for 2, had a double, had an RBI. And on the spring prior to today, Brett Beatty in 8 at-bats is batting .375. He's
Yeah.
doing what he needs to do to earn an everyday spot in this Met lineup, and that spot is going to rotate to give other guys days off. And so Brett Beatty is a player that we should all be really excited about.
Yeah. What I was most excited about is I saw the other day Brett Beatty had a stolen base, right? He came into spring training. He had a little tweak of his hamstring. They said it was minor. They said they're just going to kind of like start him off a little bit slower. But if this guy's stealing bases, clearly his hamstring is totally fine. And so, he was a guy that David Stearns highlighted in the offseason about someone that they really are trying to count on for this year. His versatility is really nice to see. That the fact that he can play all over the diamond, something that the Mets are really going to need. And I don't want to say like his issue is not his hitting, but like, Brett Beatty in the minor leagues, like he always hit in the minor leagues, right? Like AAA, he ripped that up. He would come up to major leagues, he would struggle, he'd get sent back down, he'd rip up AAA. And so I think it's a guy that the Mets, they slow played. They gave him multiple opportunities, and hopefully that's going to come to fruition this year again, right? Because he had a really nice season last year. Hopefully this is going to be a step up for Brett Beatty. I'm someone that I'm excited for again for this year, no doubt.
Yeah, Brett Beatty's going to hit at least 25 home runs this year, Met fans. Be excited
Wow.
for it.
Mark it. Put it on the board, baby. Put it on
down.
the board.
Put it down.
Anyone else you want to highlight offensively? Again, we're not going to go into the Bo Bichette's, right? The Marcus Simeons. They're totally fine. Those guys, right? They're going to be on this club.
Yeah, I will say, and we won't dive into it, it was nice to see Jorge Polanco go out and play first base as well, go out there and get some at-bats. It does seem as though he's going to be the most of the time DH for the Mets, and he's getting his at-bats in right now, doing what he needs to do. So but it's just nice to see him get out there and play some defense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Again, he's going to play first base, but if the Mets are seeing that Brett Beatty is a better first baseman than Jorge Polanco, they're not just going to force him into that, right? Like Brett Beatty will play first base and Polanco is going to DH. Like Polanco DH'd a lot last year and he was really successful for the Mariners. And so that is something that, again, if that is putting these guys in the best position as possible, that's a good thing to have, right? So.
All right, Justin, let's pivot now. We'll jump into the WBC. So I know we've been going here for a long time, Met fans. We are over an hour on this pod. Justin, what are you feeling when it comes to the WBC? Are you watching these games? Do you give a crap? How do you feel about the WBC?
I'm going to be totally honest. Not really. These games also start at 8 o'clock at night, right? And like, I can't stay up late, right? Like Stefan's like, when do you want to record? I'm like, well, I don't know, 9 a.m., right? How about 7 a.m., right? So like for me, like I struggle with that. Again, I look at this and say, it's going to be Dominican Republic. It's going to be the United States. It's going to be Team Japan, right? It's going to be these guys that we know for sure are going to make it out of this group play. And so like maybe that's why I'm not that excited. I'm more excited to see like how our boys are doing, right? Like such as Juan Soto hitting like a game-winning home run today. When we say game winning, they were up 10 runs. So like, let's not, this wasn't like
It's a mercy rule home run. It's a mercy rule walk-off home run by Juan Soto.
I'll tell you right now, Major League Baseball should start implementing a mercy rule because, dude, how many times last year did we see in the eighth inning a freaking shortstop that comes in that's throwing for a major league team, and it's a total joke what goes on there, right? Like I don't know the stats, but like if you're down 10 runs, the game is pretty much over, right? Like let's call a spade here, right? So
What
yeah, so
inning?
like this was
If the MLB was going to implement that, at what inning do you have to say the game's over? You're up by 10 in the seventh.
you got to finish out the seventh,
Home team bats in
right?
the seventh.
Yeah, I think you can kill 8-9
Okay, I mean I'm with it.
if you're
I'm with it.
if you're up 10.
Because what you also have to think about is the consumer, right? Like you went there,
Yeah.
you paid for your ticket, you're getting a shortened game. How upset are you? But then on the advertising
No.
broadcast end, right? Like I'm paying for my ads to be out there. I'm now missing out on opportunities to advertise. So I don't think that's for those particular reasons. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the MLB is looking for ways to shorten games. That would be one way to do it.
No, I'm totally with you, man. But like, listen, if you're at the game and your team puts up 10 runs for you, right, and you win by mercy, I don't think anyone's like, I can't believe I didn't see the 10-1 ninth inning, right? Like, but I'm with you. It's about the money, right? Like, so like,
Yeah.
you're
It
probably
also
right on
feels high
that, like with
stat,
the
right? Like
advertising.
Bo Bichette, if the Mets are up by 11 runs and that game is still going, he goes out and pops a home run, and now it doesn't
You're
count.
trying to
Like,
you're trying to pad stats.
yeah,
You're trying to pad stats.
he's going to be a free agent next year, like everybody else on this team.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, if the Mets are up 10-1, Bo Bichette probably had a good game. All right. So like, yo, there's your stats, my friend.
Yeah, that one more home run. All right, let's jump into it. So Juan Soto, great game. Met fans, if you are not paying attention to the WBC, I'll tell you there's only two teams you really need to pay attention to. It's the Dominican Republic and it's the United States, because that's where all of our guys that are notable are. And what we're going to do here on the podcast for our fans is we're going to talk specifically WBC for the New York Mets. So we talked about Juan Soto, great game. He's 3 for 7 right now. Jacked up. Another guy for the DR that's a New York Met that we should be paying attention to, Huascar Braziban. What do we got, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about this guy on the pod. He is someone that like he's good. He's been really good for the Mets. That was a really solid trade that they made with the Marlins. This was now like 3 years ago. The Mets had like 3 years of control for this guy when they made that trade, and he's been really solid. I know that he's had some ups and downs, but like that's every single reliever.
Mostly ups.
But yeah, but exactly, and like. The thing with Braziban is that when he has his downs, he does rebound. It's not like it's like a total collapse where it's like, oh my God, this guy can't be pitched for the next like 6 months. So Braziban, yeah, he looked good again, 1 2/3 innings, another strikeout. He's looked good in the spring though as well. A guy like Clay Holmes, you've actually already alluded to. You actually talked about his start. This was yesterday, 3 innings, 6 strikeouts, up to 97 miles per hour on his fastball. He came in after Skubal and actually pitched better than Skubal. Just saying, right? You know, Scuba let up a first inning home run. But yeah, no, he looks great, right? Like that's something we've already kind of alluded to.
We're not going to do that on the pod, though. We're not going to come out here and compare Clay Holmes to Tarek Skubal, but he did pitch better
Yeah,
than
did you
him.
see that? You see Scuba like went to his agent? You see that whole thing where he went to his agent and the Tigers after yesterday's game?
What happened?
So about an hour after the game, right? So Scuba starts the game yesterday. You know, whatever he throws well. USA wins. He calls Scott Boras. He calls the Tigers an hour after the game. Was like, hey, I know I said I'm only going to make one start, but yo, the feelings I had, like the emotions I had starting for Team USA, basically he was like, I need to do that again. And so I think that like he's going to make another start for Team USA, which is really exciting. I think that he is the best pitcher in all of baseball. And if he's on the mound for Team USA, that's a scary sight to see.
I mean, the Team USA starting rotation, we've talked about it in the past, is unbelievable. So if you're not loving the WBC, that's fine. You got to watch these guys pitch because you love baseball, right? Watching these guys, Skubal, Skeens, and our guy who we're going to talk about next, Nolan McLean, it's going to be unbelievable. So Nolan has not pitched yet. So if you haven't seen a single WBC game, this is the one to tune into. Nolan McLean is going to be making the final start in pool play for the New York Mets, I believe.
He's going to be. Team Italy is who he's going to be throwing against.
Okay, so this is the one to gear up for. And so Nolan is going to make that start. You could expect that he's going to throw about 4 innings in that game and hopefully guide Team USA to a W. So be excited, Met fans, because I'm excited. I'm excited to just have Nolan McLean surrounded by guys named Skubal and Skeens.
You know what's crazy? So, like, this came out before the Skubal announcement yesterday that he pretty much is going to start another game. But what the announcement was that Nolan McLean, if USA made it to the finals, would be the starting pitcher, right? Like, they've already announced that. Like, they have the rotation set up right now to a point where if McLean and Team USA makes it to the finals, he is the starting pitcher. Now, if Tarek Skubal is willing to throw another start, you got to think that it's probably going to be Scooble that's gonna start that game.
They're gonna
Imagine
tag team.
Imagine Scooble McLean coming in, right? That's not bad right there.
Yeah, they're definitely
That's
going to
pretty
tag
good.
team that game. So
Oh man,
that game is Tuesday night, Met fans. So
yeah.
Mets versus Team Italy. So let's get
Okay,
geared up for that.
coming up. Are we gonna end the pod with a Mark Vientos right now?
We have to. Mark, I am your biggest supporter of Met fans. I love you. I hope that you turn it around. And I honestly told Justin that before the WBC started, I was going to come out on this podcast and make a declaration about Mark Vientos getting hot in the WBC. And I'm really glad I didn't, because my dude, you are 0 for 8 with 3 strikeouts. What in the world is going on with Mark Vientos? He better pick it up, Justin. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen. There's other guys knocking down the door. And I don't know if the Mets can really go out there and put a guy who's got 1 hit in spring training and no hits on Team Nicaragua, he is like the star of Team Nicaragua, right? He's the 4 hitter on this team. 0 for 8.
Yeah, listen, again, it's only 8 at bats. It's only a couple of spring at bats, but it is like with this guy, like he's got to get going, because the opportunity just might not be there for him to get going if he doesn't start getting going, right? Like, meaning that, like, last year, he had a long leash. Last year, the Mets gave him ample opportunity to try to figure it out. And, like, he had little spurts of him figuring it out here and there. But I don't necessarily know if that's going to be there this year. Like, because there is so much talent in the minor league system and on the major league club, it might be a situation that if Mark Vientos is not producing, he just might not get an opportunity to try to figure it out. And I think that's going to be the biggest issue for Vientos this year. So I'm a little concerned with that, because I don't know if the opportunity is going to be there for him.
What it's happened to Ronnie Mauricio last year is what I'm afraid is going to happen to Vientos right now. And I will not be mad. The Mets cannot play a guy who's not producing when there are other guys who are producing. Right now, we're talking about him and Brett Beatty and Polanco trying to figure out how to split time, right? 3 guys for 2 positions, trying to keep everybody in the lineup. But if Vientos is not hitting, it's going to figure itself out. It always does. And he's going to obviously be the odd man out. And that's going to be really sad, because I do think this guy has the talent. Maybe he's just too much in his head. And if he's that type of head case and he can't figure it out, the Mets are going to move forward without him.
Yeah, listen, I know that, like, he only has 1 hit in spring. I know that he hit the ball hard a few times, right? Got a little unlucky with some of those at bats.
We've been saying that for a year.
I know. I don't know what to do with him, right? I don't know what to do with him, right? Because like, we've seen him in 2024 be someone that can carry a team, like a guy that was in a playoff run, and he was our best hitter, right? Like realistically, he was like a guy that I was like, all right, big spot coming up. Give me Mark Vientos, right? And like, that's crazy to think of, like, how far that fall has happened, how quickly that has happened. So, again, like, it's the opportunity, man. Like, I just don't know if it's going to be there, right? Like, we're talking about all these guys and how well they've been swinging the bat, and how, I just don't get, I don't know. Well, this we'll see.
Yeah, Mark, listen to me. You need to get hot right now, okay? In the WBC, your team is probably going to get eliminated out of pool play. You're 0-2 right now. So you got like 1 or 2 more games left to play.
Nicaragua.
Yeah, let's go. Get hot. Figure this thing out. Come back to Met spring training camp, hitting the baseball, because that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I feel like it was a mistake. He probably shouldn't have went to the WBC, right? Like, a guy that's like, I don't want to say he's on the roster bubble, but a guy's like, hey, I'm fighting for playoff time. I'm fighting for playing time. Like, I don't know if he should have went to the WBC based on, like, those things. It really might have hurt him. So we'll see what's going on. I don't know.
All right, Met fans, that's going to bring us to
All right, let's go,
here.
baby.
Justin, you want to put this one in the books? Let's go.
Hey, Met fans, if you're not following the pod, start following the pod. Give us a little bit of a like. Start subscribing to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends, tell your family. We're on this, right? We're doing our best. We're giving our heart and soul out here, right? We're over an hour into these episodes. If you're still listening to this little monologue over here, that means you're a true Met fan, which means that you're going to tell your family and friends all about that.
Let's go. Let's go. Met fans, we bought the domain. We are committed. So if you want to check us out, the easiest way now, it's super easy. If you know the name of our podcast, all you got to do is type into your browser, meetthemetsfans.com. It's going to take you directly to where you can stream us, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever it is, or on YouTube. The video is going to be right there. All you have to do is hit play.
That's legit.
Let's go.
That's real.
All right. We're out.
Nice.
Go,
I didn't know we did that. I didn't know we did. What the hell? How much did that cost?
Meet the Mets fans, voices rising up from the stands. Hear their cheers, hear their groans, feel their highs, feel their moans. Stories untold now on the mic. Mets fans unite.